Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Hollywood claims it has the legal right to discriminate using DEI in its first major lawsuit. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. This is the benefit of filing a lawsuit against a Hollywood studio when you know you've been discriminated against because of your skin color or your gender, or because you're not one of the trendy people that Hollywood wants to hire. A white writer sued Paramount because he was not getting opportunities that he felt he should have gotten because of his skin color. America First Legal backed him up, and his first major Hollywood lawsuit against DEI hiring is now in court. Hollywood has responded to the lawsuit, and their claim is that they have a First Amendment right to discriminate against whoever they want to, based on skin color or background, because they're creating speech, and speech can't be regulated by government. It's an interesting response. I think it's completely wrong, and not just morally wrong, but legally wrong, because it's not like one writer is the only creative voice on a project that Paramount produces. Whether it's for TV or if it's for a movie, there are multiple writers involved with any of these projects. You can't just say that you want to discriminate against certain people because they don't have the preferred backgrounds that you'd like to promote and give opportunities to, and say, well, it's free speech, so we can get rid of all the people of this skin color and not give them any chances. But apparently the people in Paramount in charge of their diversity departments don't feel that way. They feel they can do that. And that's what their lawsuit response says. They use the First Amendment to discriminate against people that they don't like, based on their skin color. From Deadline, CBS claims First Amendment allows it to select writers, quote, best suited for its programs in discrimination lawsuit response. And don't misunderstand here, this is historic. This is challenging. Can you select the racial makeup of the people that work on your entertainment projects? Or can't you if you are Hollywood? Do you have a right to say, I only want to select certain people who have certain religious backgrounds, certain skin colors, certain genders, certain views about reality, certain views about politics? Can I select just those people to work on not just a sole project, but on an ensemble project, a team of writers, not just one writer, could be 5 writers, 10 writers, 20 writers. You can't have certain people of certain skin colors on your team because it would ruin your team. That can't be right. That can't be legal. As if writing literally wasn't a skill whatsoever so that they couldn't contribute the way you want them to contribute because their skin color is wrong? That is the defense that CBS is filing. CBS and Paramount Global have filed a response to a discrimination lawsuit by a writer who claimed he wasn't hired because he was a straight white man. Brian Beneker filed his suit in March, complaining that he was not hired as a staff writer for the series SEAL team, solely for the reason of his race, sex, and/or sexual orientation. Quote, defendants failed to hire or promote Mr. Beneker due to his race, sex, and heterosexuality, the complaint from longtime SEAL team script coordinator and freelance writer Brian Beneker said. Beneker said in the complaint that he had suffered by not being part of the favored hiring groups, that is, they were non-white, LGBT, or female, and the illegal policy of increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion measures. Well, this balancing policy has created a situation where heterosexual white men need extra qualifications, including military experience or previous writing credits, to be hired as staff writers when compared to their non-white LGBT or female peers who require no such extra qualifications, the filing added. CBS responded and asked for a quick dismissal. So they're asking to dismiss the lawsuit on the basis of their First Amendment rights. Here's what they filed. CBS, quote, has a constitutional right under the First Amendment to select the writers whose work shapes CBS's artistic enterprise, according to the motion they filed. CBS also asserted that aspects of Beneker's complaint are time-barred and failed to state a claim on which relief can be granted. Quote, the First Amendment bars Beneker's claims in full. The First Amendment embodies a core principle of speaker's autonomy that bars the government from dictating to expressive enterprises, like CBS, what it has to say and how to say it. It therefore displaces applications of statutes, including anti-discrimination laws, that would force an expressive enterprise to compromise its own message. Holding CBS liable for not hiring him, quote, would prevent CBS from hiring the storytellers whom CBS believes are best suited to tell the stories CBS wants to produce and broadcast. Granting relief to Beneker would impair CBS's ability to speak on its own terms. The request for dismissal will be heard on July 15th in Central District Court in Los Angeles. It's also important to consider that Paramount is not exactly doing well. From the New York Times, Sony and Apollo take key step in bid for Paramount's assets. Sony, of course, is a movie studio. Apollo is a finance group. They're looking to take over Paramount and carve Paramount up in pieces. That would be necessary because Paramount isn't making money. It's not doing well, particularly with their streaming service. So they're so busy saying we want to protect our voice. We need our First Amendment rights, but they're not busy making money for their investors. Here's the actual filing from Paramount. In their introduction, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution generally forbids the government from dictating to artistic creators how to develop and express their own artistic messages. Just as a newspaper is entitled to broad deference in choosing which writers to employ to express its editorial positions, a creative production enterprise is entitled to broad deference in choosing which writers to employ to pen the stories it desires to tell. And that's a fair argument. They also have a freedom of association. They can decide if they don't want to work with white people, they can cite the freedom of association. From FindLaw.com, the Supreme Court has long held that the First Amendment's protection of free speech, assembly, and petition logically extends to a freedom of association. Generally, this means we have the freedom to associate with others who have similar political, religious, or cultural beliefs. This separate freedom grew out of challenges to state laws that burdened the NAACP and was challenged by security investigations of the Communist Party. So they have a right to freedom of association. We all do. But there are some laws in commerce that prevent you, through employment law, of selecting people just based on their skin color or cultural backgrounds that you prefer, especially when the hire is only part of a team, and especially if you're going to create different standards for different people who have different skin colors. You can't just say the people with a pink skin color are going to have to do this much more work or have this much more of a resume before we hire them versus the people with a brown skin color or the people with a red skin color. Does that seem right to you? Of course it's not right. We all have to really cherish and fight to defend all of our individual rights. Paramount is claiming an individual right under the First Amendment to discriminate against people based on their skin color. That doesn't really seem good. As an individual, okay, sure, you can decide who you want to associate with or not. You can decide, I don't want to hire this guy. But you can't do that in most of business and most of industry. You have to treat people fairly under the law. There are multiple precedents for that. Paramount goes on to say, defendant CBS Studios and its parent company Paramount Global create television programming, including the successful CBS show SEAL Team. At its core, the second amended complaint alleges that CBS has determined to showcase diverse storytelling and has focused on hiring of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, also known as BIPOC writers, to tell those stories. The plaintiff in this action, Brian Beneker, is a heterosexual white man who complains that he was not hired as a staff writer for SEAL Team and who theorizes that his non-hiring stems from his race, sex, and/or sexual orientation. The reason they're bringing up the First Amendment claim is that the First Amendment claim would absolutely kill the lawsuit. It's a legal strategy, and it's going to be an important precedent, because if it's found that Hollywood can just decide, look, I don't like the stories that white people seem to tell, so I'm not going to hire any white people to write for me. That would be very important. It would destroy a lot of careers, and it would be an important finding. I assume that the plaintiff would appeal this because they have the backing of America First Legal. If the opposite is found, that you can't just select people based on their skin color or their sexual preferences to do work for you, especially on a collaborative project where you have multiple writers, you're going to tell me you have to have a different standard for people that don't fit your woke agenda? Sure, if their skin color was Black or if they were gay, we would hire this person, or if they were trans, we would hire this person as a team member. It's important to understand and to make reference to the fact that it's a member of a team. It's one of the writers on a team of writers. Whatever their contribution is going to be diluted. Is a federal court really going to decide that it's okay to discriminate against people, especially someone who's only one person on a team because you're working on creative projects? I can't see a federal judge saying it's okay to discriminate that way, but we have to see what the federal judge says and then if there's an appeal. Their filing goes on to say, the First Amendment bars Beneker's claims in full. The First Amendment embodies a core principle of speaker's autonomy that bars the government from dictating to expressive enterprises like CBS what to say and how to say it. It therefore displaces applications of statutes, including anti-discrimination laws, that would force an expressive enterprise to compromise its own message. The allegations in Beneker's complaint amply demonstrate that holding CBS liable for declining to hire him would prevent CBS from hiring the storytellers whom CBS believes are best suited to tell the stories CBS wants to produce and broadcast. Granting relief to Beneker would impair CBS's ability to speak on its own terms, and so would contravene the First Amendment. The complaint should be dismissed on this basis alone. Because First Amendment protection is dispositive, meaning that it would decide everything right away, the court need not proceed further. But even leaving the First Amendment aside, Beneker's complaint suffers from other infirmities. In particular, at a minimum, the complaint should be narrowed to exclude time-barred and legally insufficient allegations. Although Beneker alleges that he was passed over in favor of 6 writers, his Title VII claim is untimely as to 5 of those alleged hiring decisions. As to Beneker's claim under 42 U.S.C., 2 of the alleged hiring decisions fall outside the statute of limitations, and 3 others are not cognizable under Section 1981 because Beneker alleges that the hired writers were of the same race as Beneker. Setting the First Amendment aside, Beneker pleads a plausible Title VII claim only as to 1 of the 6 alleged hiring decisions, and pleads a Section 1981 claim only as to 1 other decision. There are statute of limitations, which basically means it takes a certain amount of time before any claim that you make is not valid to be challenged under a lawsuit. But even Paramount here is admitting at least 1 of the claims is valid within the time frame. Does Hollywood have, or does it not have, the legal right to discriminate against hiring people with certain skin colors, certain religions, certain backgrounds, certain sexual preferences because they're producing creative work? That's what this lawsuit could be deciding. It's difficult for me to accept that Hollywood has the right to exclude certain people of certain religions or certain sexual preferences or skin colors because they decide, well, we think that a black guy or a white guy would be good or not good at telling this kind of story, even when they have a team of people who are doing the same job. You've got 8 writers, you've got 20 writers, you've got 5 writers, all working on a team to produce certain content. Writing is a skill. It's not based on your skin color. It's not based on your religion. Of course, we shouldn't have the government telling studios or newspapers or any other media outlets what kind of stories they can and can't tell. And we should be extremely careful if we start to tell companies or people you can't produce certain kinds of creative works. But it's another thing to say, yeah, you're allowed to openly discriminate against people based on their skin color or any other immutable characteristic, to tell people you are not welcome in any creative endeavors if you are a certain skin color. And Hollywood wants the right to be able to do that officially and have it sanctioned by the government? I don't think so. I don't think this lawsuit's going to work out the way that Hollywood wants it to, especially on collaborative projects where you have more than one contributor doing the same task. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.